Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the webinar on Atmanirbhar Bharat for electronic sector and overcoming COVID-19. We have various team speakers with us. We have Mr. S.K. Marwa. He is a senior director with Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Welcome, sir. We have Mr. Sanjeev Agrawal. He is a chief manufacturing officer with Lava. We have Mr. Atul Best. He is a head technology, media, telecom, and electronic manufacturing with Invest India. We have Mr. Sanjay Gupta, Vice President and India Country Manager for NXP. We have Mr. Hemant Malapur, co-founder and executive VP Engineering for Sankhya Lab. We have Mr. Varun Manwani, and he is Director for Electronics. The session will be moderated by Mr. Sanjeev Narayan, and he's a veteran in the industry, and I think it's a right moderation we have for session now. This is a 90 minutes discussion, sir, and question and answer will be taken towards the end of the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me now, all of you?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
sir.
we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. A very warm welcome to all the participants and my fellow panelists. The webinar organized by Exhibitions India titled Atmanirbhar Bharat for Electronic Sector and Overcoming COVID-19. You will all agree that we are experiencing an unprecedented business environment as we battle through the COVID pandemic. This call for Atmanirbhar Bharat was announced by the Prime Minister a few months back. Being Atmanirbhar is a great opportunity for all of us in the industry. As you're all aware, the electronics sector has the second largest import bill after oil. We imported $58 billion worth of electronics last year. Surely you will agree that there is a huge opportunity for us to become Atmanirbhar in this sector. Also, electronics is the backbone. Also, the electronics is the backbone of development and growth across all sectors, be it agriculture, medical, mobility, datacom, smart cities, or even mining and defense. Fortunately, we have a government that listens, understands, and works hand in hand with the industry. Atmanirbhar vision requires a clear roadmap of 3 to 5 years to enable sustained growth with Indian products for the world. The government clearly understands the challenge that lay ahead for us in the industry and has achieved remarkable success in the case of mobile manufacturing through PNP and phased manufacturing programs with graded duty structures on the entire value chain, starting from the product, PCB assembly, the components, and raw materials. And now, with new incentives under the policy of SPEC and PLI, these have been announced for further increased depth of manufacturing and building export. Just to share some figures with you, mobile, the production in 14-15 was $2.98 billion, and it's gone up to $24.3 billion US dollars in 1920, and is projected to cross $200 billion by 2025. Just see the amazing growth story with the intervention of our government at the right time. The industry and the government have already started on a roadmap for verticals such as air conditioners, television, set-top boxes, white goods, security systems, automotive electronics, datacom, electronic components including semiconductors. We will all need to tailor-make policies for each one of these segments like the mobile. Design and innovation, which is an important link for sustainable growth and leadership globally, is critical for our success strategy. Fortunately, we have sufficient talent in India, but we need to create an enabling environment to harness this strength. So let's get started with this conversation and explore ideas together on how do we integrate the vibrant startup ecosystem and support this. How do we build the Indian IP products? So, ladies and gentlemen, we have an eminent panel this afternoon, which includes two key members from the government who are driving the policy formulation. Mr. S.K. Marva, who is the Senior Director, MeitY, and Mr. Atul Bisht, who is heading the electronic manufacturing from Invest India. We also have 4 representatives from the industry, Mr. Sanjay Gupta, Vice President, NXP Semiconductors, Mr. Varun Manmani, Director, Sahasra Group, Mr. Sanjeev Agarwal, Chief Manufacturing Officer of Lava, and Mr. Hemant Malapur, Founder and EVP Engineering, Sankhya Labs. This is a fantastic opportunity for us to have a direct interaction with decision makers from the government, sharing the panel with our industry colleagues to discuss on how we can make sustainable global electronic hub. We must use this moment constructively to brainstorm together. I would request each panelist to speak for about 7 to 8 minutes, and then we will open it up for discussion. May I invite Mr. Marva to be the first speaker, as he's the person who has really spearheaded all the policies in the government, whether it is the latest PLI and SPEC and EMC2, or whether it was the MSIPs earlier, and he has been in this position for a long time and knows the industry inside out. He's also been a very good friend of the industry. Mr. Marva.
Good afternoon, Mr. Narayan. I think you have laid the foundation of the discussion today very well, and we are harping on a very important topic, Atmanirbhar Bharat, particularly in electronics and innovation. And as far as electronics manufacturing goes, you will recall that when we brought out the previous national policy on electronics in the year 2012, that was a time when the interest in electronics manufacturing in the country was low. The information technology agreement of the WTO had been implemented, and the basic customs duty was brought down to zero in a phased manner on several telecom items, information technology goods, as well as electronic components. So as a result of that, our companies which were existing that point in time, 2005 and beyond, they could not sustain the onslaught of foreign competition because of the disabilities which were inherent in our manufacturing ecosystem, and many of them closed down. So then the government took up this challenge that electronics, as you know, today the demand is increasing exponentially, and it is already the second highest item of import after oil for India. This foreign exchange outward, this rate is not sustainable. So ultimately, we have to develop this industry and increase the value addition, increase exports in a big way, so that ultimately we become a net foreign exchange positive in this sector. So in the previous policy, what we did, we came out with several schemes, as you already mentioned, such as the modified special incentive package scheme, where we offered 20 to 25% capex subsidy. We also brought in the electronics manufacturing cluster scheme, where we promoted setting up of clusters for offsetting the infrastructure deficiencies. We rationalized the tariff structure in a big way, brought in the phased manufacturing program, starting with the mobile phones, which has worked perfectly for us. And then we mandated safety standards and all of that. And also, last but not the least, the policy for providing preference to domestically manufactured electronic products in government procurement. Ultimately, that has become that has been adopted for all the sectors, and the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade (DPIIT) has notified the public procurement order in 2007 that has been modified 2-3 times, and latest one is of 20th of June this year. And that is a major policy instrument now to promote domestic electronics manufacturers, not just electronics manufacturers, across all sectors. It started with electronics, and that the policy has been adopted for all the sectors. And now the new national policy on electronics proposes to build on the foundation that we have, created in the last 5 years. So just to recap figures, the domestic production of electronics, it increased substantially from about $29 billion in 2014-15 to about $76 billion in 2019-20. So that amounts to a compound annual growth rate of 23%. And the export of electronic goods has also kick-started from last 2 years. So the export, which was $6.4 billion in 17-18, it has grown to $8.8 billion in 18-19 at a growth rate of 38%. So the major driver has been the export of mobile phones, and this trend will continue in the coming years. And the import of electronics also has increased over the years. However, compared to growth rate of 23% in production, the growth rate of imports has been about 18%. And what is happening is the import of finished goods is declining, and that of components, where we have the base is weak, that is increasing. So that clearly goes to show that manufacturing of finished products, assembly of finished products in the country is increasing. And as a result of all these initiatives, our share in global electronics production, which was only 1.3% in 2012, has increased to 3.6% in 2019. And electronics manufacturing today is about 3% of India's total GDP. And we want to increase that. And as Mr. Narayan already mentioned, India has done exceedingly well as far as mobile phone manufacturing is concerned. We have emerged as the second largest manufacturer of mobile phones in the world in volume terms. There are over 200 units which are manufacturing mobile phones and their sub-assemblies and parts in the country, up from only 2 units in 2014. The production of mobile phones has gone up from 6 crore units way back in 2014-15 to 33 crore units last year. And the export has now kick-started, which was only about 1,500 crores 5 years back. It has reached about 25,000 crores in 1920. And I'm happy to say that about 95% of domestic demand of mobile phones currently is being met out of domestic production. And India has also become the second largest smartphone market globally. So smartphone today is the primary access point for internet in India, and it has become instrumental in its progress towards digitization. So that's very important. And today we have over 50 crore Indians connected to internet, primarily through the smartphones. And this trend is expected to continue. And by 2022, we expect that there will be over 83 crore smartphone users in the country. And as a result of the phased manufacturing program and also the modified special incentive package scheme, India rapidly started attracting investments in the last 4 years in this particular sector. Large, significant capacities have already been set up in India during the past 5 years, and most of the major brands, both foreign as well as Indian, have either started their own manufacturing facilities or subcontracted to electronics manufacturing services companies which are operating from India. So now coming to the new national policy on electronics, we shall promote domestic manufacturing and export in the entire value chain of electronics. And we have set up a very ambitious target of $400 billion of production, annual production by 2025. This will include a targeted production of 1 billion mobile handsets valued at $190 billion by that time, by 2025, out of which we expect that 600 million mobile phones valued at 110 billion US dollars shall be exported. And now, as you can see, this is a very ambitious target, but with the appropriate schemes in place and backing of the industry, we have embarked on this journey, and we go all out to make a success of the new policy and meet our targets in the years to come. So the new policy, national policy on electronics, brought in last year, has been formulated to reflect new aspirations, requirements, and realities of electronics manufacturing in the country, as well as the emerging international dynamics. So we envision to position India as a global hub for electronic system design and manufacturing, with focus on significantly enhancing global domestic value addition going ahead. That is moving from simple assembly to manufacturing of core components. So going ahead, that is our target, and also export in a big way. So, focus on size and scale, that will be the emphasis in the next 5 years. And ultimately, we wish to achieve the net positive balance of payments for this electronic sector. So this is a very ambitious, a huge target, but I'm sure with the appropriate schemes in place and efforts of the industry, we will be able to achieve it. So the new policy is actually focusing, on ecosystem of manufacturing. That is a group of companies that form the supply chain of an electronic product. We will be supporting the anchor units as well as the complete supply chain, rather than just focusing on import substitution. That was what happened as a result of the last policy. So besides that, the new policy will also promote generation of intellectual property in India. It will deepen the domestic research, development, designing capabilities, and also we propose to take a leadership position in emerging technologies like IoT, artificial intelligence, 5G, sensors, drones, additive manufacturing, and to promote startups, R&D and manufacturing in all these areas. And amongst the conventional sectors in the new policy, the medical electronics, automotive and power electronics, strategic electronics, and fabless chip design industry promotion, they are the key sectors that have been identified in the new policy. And also, we have introduced a concept of trusted value chain in electronics in the new policy, which will address concerns related to cybersecurity. So it is very important that we increase, our domestic value addition in a big way, and also, concentrate on bringing in a semiconductor fab in the country. So while efforts have been made in the last 10 years, which have not been successful, but going ahead, we believe that as we promote the fabless chip design industry and also deepen our electronics manufacturing value chain, that will also ultimately happen. So with these policies in place, the new schemes that we have already introduced, Mr. Sanjeev Narayan has spoken briefly about them. So first, the flagship scheme is the production-linked incentive scheme for large-scale electronics manufacturing. This scheme will extend an incentive of 4 to 6% to eligible companies on incremental sales over the base year, which are involved in mobile phone manufacturing and assembly of specified electronic components, including the assembly, test, marking, and packaging, what they call ATMP units. The other scheme, the scheme for promoting manufacturing of electronic components and semiconductors. will provide a capex subsidy of 25% for identified list of electronic goods that comprise the downstream value chain of electronic products. That is the electronic components, the semiconductors, the display fabrication units, ATMP units, specialized sub-assemblies, as well as the capital goods which go into the manufacturing of these items. So basically, the change from the MSIPs to the new specs is that we are not supporting now the finished electronic goods, but supporting the downstream value chain. So finished electronic goods have been supported under MSIPs over the last 5 years, and we have seen sufficient traction as far as manufacturing of products is concerned. Now we are focusing on deepening the value addition and the complete value chain of electronics. Also, we have brought in the new modified electronics manufacturing cluster scheme, what we call EMC 2.0, which will provide support for creation of world-class infrastructure along with common facilities and amenities, including ready-built factory sheds, plug-and-play facilities for attracting major global electronics manufacturers along with their supply chains. The scheme shall provide financial assistance for setting up both greenfield EMCs as well as common facility centers across the country. So I think I have spoken quite a bit and laid the foundation as far as electronics manufacturing is concerned. And now coming to innovation R&D, to that, India has already emerged as the world's second largest startup ecosystem in the world, with over 20,000 startups with about $50 billion valuation. And today we have over 200 incubators and accelerators in the country. And today India is the first choice of tech MNCs to set up their R&D centers outside of their home countries. And all the major chip design companies, they have their R&D centers in India, all the global major chip design companies. And India's technology talent is well recognized globally. And going ahead, we also propose to develop India as a software product hub driven by innovation, sustainable IP, and promoting technology startups and specialized skill sets. So that is also our goal in the new policy. And we also propose to catalyze, the sectoral public digital platforms such as the UPI, the GSTN, and GEM, Government e-Marketplace, in sectors like healthcare, education, agriculture, and logistics, etc. And the latest example of the innovation and what we have done to, for the COVID-19, the Arogya Setu app is the latest example of such innovation that we are capable of doing. So with those words, I would like to conclude my remarks, and then please.
Thank you very much, Marva. I think you've taken us right across what the great things that the department has been doing. And I must say, one of the biggest benefits that all of us are experiencing right now is the close interaction between the government and industry, which I think has been at its peak, and with people like you there, we think it will be great way forward. The next speaker we have is Atul Bisht, who is also part of the government at Invest India, and he is heading the entire electronics sector there and manufacturing. Now, if we can hear from him as to how he sees the present situation and what is likely to be done in the times to come, before we have the industry leaders into the panel discussion. Thank you. Atul?
Thank you so much for the introduction, Sanjeev. And firstly, thank you organizers, Exhibition India, for inviting me as a fellow speaker with this fantastic panel of government and industry leaders and experts. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining me in this discussion on a topic, or rather a sector that is frankly not only my mandate at Invest India, but also a focal point for the government, as Marva sir made very clear. A government that's doing everything and more to provide impetus and re-energize what is the world's fastest growing industry, right? So the electronics system design and manufacturing, ESDM, continues to transform lives, businesses, and economies across the globe, and more so in India, where India's share in the global electronics manufacturing ecosystem has grown from 1.3% in 2012 to close to 3.5% in 2019. In a global electronics market that is estimated to be over $2 trillion US. The electronics manufacturing sector accounts for close to 3% of India's GDP and employs over 13 million people directly or indirectly. And these are points that Mava sir has already mentioned, but I repeat or re-emphasize to give you a sense of the scale we are operating in, and henceforth wants to aspire to. We are 1/6 of the world's population, 1.2 billion mobile subscribers and 660 million internet users large. Our per capita disposable income and private consumption has actually doubled in the last 7 years, making us one of the world's largest markets for electronic products. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the ESDM sector can probably generate close to $130 billion in economic value by 2025. India also ranks in the top 3 global economies in terms of number of digital consumers, and is slated to have a digital economy of close to 1 trillion by 2025. So there you go, a growing middle class population, rising disposable income, and declining electronics prices have sort of led to an uptick in consumption of electronic devices in India. Quick technology transitions, as Maros mentioned, such as the rollout of 5G and Internet of Things, are ushering in a new era of electronic products. Undoubtedly, we are witnessing a digital revolution, and India has experienced a large-scale digital adoption in the last 5 or 6 years or so. For example, digital transactions, they've increased 10 times. We all know about Aadhaar, right? India's unique digital identity program. It covers more than 1.2 billion people, the largest system of its type globally. 870 million individuals have Aadhaar-linked bank accounts now, of which close to 325 million odd were added due to the Jan Dhan scheme for financial inclusion. UPI, Mava sir mentioned UPI, Unified Payments Interface, enables all bank account holders to send and receive money instantly using smartphones. And that has alone clocked 3.2 billion transactions between January 2018 and December 2019, right? In just a year. So things have really seen a paradigm shift in what we call the new India, right? We went right from 142nd to the 63rd spot in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index in just 5 years. On the Global Innovation Index, for example, India has jumped from 81st to 52nd position and is 10 places up on the Logistics Performance Index. So, all in all, these are unprecedented times, right? Completely different sense. Building a vibrant electronics manufacturing ecosystem is central to the Make in India, Make for India, Make for the World, a Digital India goal set forth by the Government of India. The government has taken various initiatives to promote electronics manufacturing in the country, with a target of achieving positive net exports by 2025. And Mava sir again has already spoken at length about them. So along with the recent Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, these schemes that Mava sir mentioned, these 3 new schemes, can be the catalyst for India to become a global hub for electronics manufacturing. Half of the $1 trillion of potential value in 2025 could come from growth in existing electronic ecosystem. And our current digital infrastructure like digital payments, e-commerce, electronics manufacturing, information technology, business process management, IT, BPM, digital communication services, and direct benefit transfer. While the remaining 50%, the rest could be generated by new digital ecosystems in sectors such as agriculture, education, financial services, energy, healthcare, logistics. The power of these digital ecosystems can be best harnessed through public digital platforms, which again Mava sir has already attested to, that the government is continuing to push hard on. So all in all, again, I firmly believe that this pandemic has really accelerated our digital transformation, forming the sort of bedrock or a robust, strong foundation of India's digitally enabled lives in a post-COVID-19 world order, right? So moving forward, our problems will be viewed with a very digitally empowered lens, thereby unleashing, the true potential of electronics both domestically as well as globally. The digitization of manufacturing operations and management and the creation of these optimized supply chains is simply the beginning of the digital transformation of a new India. And this is all I had to say. It's sort of a brief introduction to this fantastic discussion. And I'm sure, when we actually get to talk about the nitty-gritties of what we see could be the future of electronics in India in a post-COVID-19 world, I mean, I would be more than happy to talk about how we are now, trying to actively reach out to the industry and now given not only the current healthcare situation across the world, the circumstance that we keep calling unprecedented times, and the pandemic that's happening around us, but also the ramifications of certain geopolitical recalibration that's happening around us, right? Where companies are now sort of de-risking and decentralizing their existing supply chains, and I think this is where our push for success has only accelerated. The strategic thought is now, to go back to the drawing board and redesign what we can, then call the roadmap for a new India, right? So I'm really looking forward to Sanjeev team to having a discussion on what it is that we can do next to build a new India. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Atul. I think you have really taken us to all the great things that are happening in this industry. And I can tell you truly, what we've been able to achieve in India in the last 5 years is absolutely phenomenal. And people all over the world are really envious of us as to how we have been able to do it. And thank you both, Marva and Atul, for this initiative. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Sanjay Gupta from NXP. He will be giving us, he's from the semiconductor space and he's heading the NXP in India. And he's also pushing the development of products as well as chipsets in the country. And I think that is one important link in terms of if we have to have cost-effective products, which we are going to be making for the world and making it cost-effective. It's very important that we own the IP. So that's what we would be pushing. So let's hear from Sanjay what he has to say.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be on this esteemed panelist. And my previous two speakers really shown a great deal of actions and exciting work happening on government fronts and how we are trying to build the right policies and procedures for taking India forward. So I represent semiconductor industry and typically the innovation industry. So on behalf of the industry, I would like to share some of the insights from my vantage point. First of all, it's great to see whether we talk about the country, how India as a nation is cruising upwards in the top among top 5 to 6 nations globally in terms of our GDP, and with the Honorable Prime Minister goal of 5 trillion economy by 2025, we are looking forward to have a bright future. Mr. Marva talked about a lot of great demographic profiles as a country we have been able to accomplish, like every semiconductor company around the world has their design centers in India, which is great. We have one of the biggest thriving startup ecosystem, and from all the ranking globally, India has the ease of doing business from the World Bank and many other parameters. We are cruising forward. So it all looks very exciting. However, if I act as a devil's advocate, on the things which are yet to get to that level of realization, and to be more, realist in this scenario, me as a hardcore technologist, I believe that until India is remembered and known globally for its IP creation, for its innovation which are done for the country, we are not there yet. I do believe that the big empire of manufacturing in India, we're talking about 400 billion by 2025, and all should happen from Indian based manufacturing. I think this is laid down on a big foundation which is based on designing in India, which is innovation in India. And if I try to give the today's scenario, most of our manufacturing, as far as the electronic components are concerned, as far as the semiconductor chips are concerned, the big connectivity IPs, you talk about Bluetooth IP or NFC or 5G, you talk about any big memory standards, or you talk about the processors, be it ARM or otherwise. The hard reality is that India right now owns none. Right, all these are imported from American or European companies. I myself represent a European company, right? But in today's discussion, I'm talking as an Indian. Right now, we are importing all this high intellectual property in terms of IPs, cores, hard macros, and we are compiling them in terms of chip in these global companies. We do not have any product company in the country today which is we can say which is a global leader. So practically, other than the service companies, we are doing services, including companies like Tata's and Wipros and Infosys, and in that league, we are still giving services to global companies, right? My dream is when we have companies at the same caliber as Intel, same caliber as Qualcomm, which are based in India, which are designing in India for India, and which have the huge talented manpower that we have today in the country. We are producing more than multi-million engineers only in the electronic sector every year. So how we tap this huge talent, how we polish them to the field, so that when we are ready with right policies in manufacturing, coupled with the right ecosystem for designing, our workforce is ready to go, and hit the ground running. Right now, purely from an Indian context, it is not happening. So my endeavor as part of, I'm part of IESA as a board member, where we are working with all the government agencies, MIT, DST, Invest India, and other peer group companies, how we can channelize our energies and the vast management experience to drive things in direction which gets completely aligned to what government is trying to do through these great programs that Mr. Mahawar just spoke about. And so I will probably pause here, and I will contribute more in the discussions forward. But my pitch is, we need to work with a very focused energy for design in India, innovation in India, and create big giant design organizations in the country.
Thank you, Sanjay. I couldn't agree with you more. I think ultimately, unless we are going to own IP, we are not going to be able to succeed in the long run. In the short term, yes, we will be able to bring down the import of finished products, maybe PCBA assemblies, and we will start the basic assembly processes. But ultimately, we have to focus on design and semiconductor. And when we talk about design, it has to include semiconductor. In fact, just to share, which the other day we had an interaction with the Honorable Commerce Minister, and one of the things that he said, we have to bring a fab in India. Now, we have people who are not connected with electronics are talking about bringing fab into India, and that is a must. That's one of the messages he gave us as industry. Yes. So, Mr. Mahawar, you have got your task here, that you need a fab, and I can tell you the kind of talent that we have, because all the design houses are here. Only because we don't own them anymore. Right. So we must work in this direction to see how we can integrate the phenomenal ecosystem that is available from the startups, and see how that can be integrated with the design and design houses. And once that can be done, I think that will be the next big step forward. The next speaker we have is Varun Manwani, the director of Sahasra. Sahasra is a company which is involved in various sectors, with EMS, in PCB, PCBAs, and also LEDs. I invite Mr. Manwani to give his talk. Varun?
Mr. Sanjay, and I hope I'm audible.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I've been having a network issues, So in
Okay.
case I'm not audible, please let me know.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you so much for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be a part amongst the esteemed panelists. As you rightly said right at the start, that the two initial speakers, Mr. Marwa and Mr. Atul Bist, I think it's something which that the government is so right, so positive to work with the industry, and that itself is such a change that we all have not witnessed, and that's very very welcome. At the same time, to begin with, the schemes that have been launched and our group companies, we have been a beneficiary of some of the past schemes of MSIPs, of the EMC, and we are also hoping to be beneficiaries of some now, as we have applied in the PLI. And so some of these schemes are really futuristic in helping manufacturers and helping the industry move forward. Besides some of these schemes, such as the PLI, SPECS, and EMC 2.0, sure the industry will positively respond to. We definitely need to protect national interest and our data security. We all know that our peer country, China. When you visit China, you see that Google is blocked, WhatsApp is blocked, and some of these others. And so, in the interest of the nation and the interest of data security, I urge that we can also take some of these steps to be able to, I would not say protect, but our own agenda for our own manufacturing industry and for the software industry. We should definitely explore partnerships other than China. China is not the only country where we can explore partnerships. And I'm purely speaking from a manufacturing standpoint. We ourselves, we have a joint venture with a very large company in Taiwan, and there is technology available in the European countries, Germany, Netherlands. There is Taiwan, Korea, Japan. So we can have partnerships in these countries whereby we can get access to technology, access to the supply chain, so that from a manufacturing standpoint, we can not only participate in the local setup, but we can participate in the global setup. As a manufacturing company, quarter that's after the coronavirus, there has been a huge demand from export market. A lot of companies are looking to imports from India, which already had the trade war that was going on between US and China. But other than the US, other countries in Europe have also looked at actively sourcing from India. And the number of inquiries and RFQs that we see individually, and I'm sure other EMS companies, has multiplied manifold. That is supposed to show that some of the policies that have been put in place, the startup ecosystem, the Make in India initiative, all of this is working well, and there is a lot of traction on ground. Some of the sectors where we definitely see a lot of activity is medical equipment, medical electronics. We ourselves are a very big player in the IT product segment. We manufacture motherboards for servers. We manufacture memory solutions such as USB devices and SSDs. And so we've been seeing a lot of demand in these areas. Yes, the Indian market currently is not very active, but even in the export market, we are seeing a lot of demand here, and companies which were sourcing from China now want to source from India, because they realize that the transparency, the security that they get from India, they're not getting it from some of the other countries that they have been working with. Other than this, yes, globally we talk about, and even in India we're talking about Industry 4.0, And therefore, we see a lot of demand in the area of IT and smart solutions, as well as educational technology, robotics, and automation. I'm basically talking about this from the standpoint that these are the opportunity areas where manufacturers should look at as the next wave from a manufacturing standpoint. The Prime Minister's message of Atmanirbhar Bharat is definitely very well taken. The only point that I'd like to touch upon is that while we talk about local for local, we talk about push local, buy local, appreciate the local ecosystem, appreciate the local entrepreneurs. I urge the industry in totality that we should definitely push our own local manufacturers and local brands, but we should definitely scale up to the global level in terms of technology and quality. Because until we do not match up to the global requirements in terms of quality and technology, we will not be able to stand up to our peers from the rest of the world to say that India can produce globally renowned and global quality products. There are a few examples in different sectors. So India definitely proves that that can happen, and we should focus on that. At the same time, there are a couple of requirements that I would look at from a manufacturing standpoint, which I would appeal to Invest India and also appeal to METI. Point number one is, from a financial standpoint, in the ESDM industry, leaving some of the multinationals such as NXP who are on the design side, but from a manufacturing standpoint, a lot of the companies are, and the biggest challenge for MSMEs is access to finance, and access to finance at the right interest rates. Yes, there are government programs where there are subsidies available, but if we can get access to direct finance and at the right rate, we will be able to ensure that the Chinese companies who smell the opportunity and at the drop of the hat, they come in, they invest in some of the local ecosystem and they control the supply chain. We can do away with that, because if we have access to the right finance and quickly, because all the MSMEs are facing challenges of not being able to get the finance or having to go through so much of paperwork that they're not able to execute their plans. So that's one side where I would look at help from the government in working out the policy and strategy in such a way that MSMEs actually get that finance in a timely fashion and at the right value. The second thing which I would urge the industry together, we ourselves and everyone else, there has to be the right academic, industry, and startup ecosystem push. We need to work with the academic institutions in ensuring that we are able to skill the youth and have the right resources available from a design standpoint, from a manufacturing standpoint. At the same time, handhold the academic institutions and also the startup ecosystem. I don't know if it's possible, but if we can work together in companies like all of us in the ESDM sector, if we can set up small incubation centers at the institutions, we can handhold the startups and they can work with us on their plans whereby we can help them get startups to reality. That is something which we all together as industry need to do from a design standpoint, from a manufacturing standpoint, and even help them market their product so that we can actually have global hardware brands and not only global tech brands. The last point which I want to make is, again, from a policy standpoint, there are a lot of products which are today being manufactured in India, which are very, very high tech. And I'll again give my own example. We are manufacturing motherboards which are server grade, and so very, very high-end server boards. However, we are not able to do that at the global scale. We're not able to do it at the global scale because the volumes do not exist in India, whereas our global peers are manufacturing for the global market. So if we can get some access to the Indian market, especially via the government procurement, and therefore if we can have a more effective PMA policy which promotes domestic manufacturing and make in India products, perhaps it can be the model for that can be a value add percentage or an export driven model, or any such model which helps the Indian manufacturers be able to grab the market, at least for the government procurement. That is something which will help the Make in India go further and a lot more technology come into the country. The very last point, just before I end my comments, is that whenever we talk about the ecosystem, as an EMS company and a PCB manufacturer where equipment is very, very critical, I don't see any package that is rolled out for hardcore equipment manufacturers. So almost all of us import our machines from every country in the world, and even China now at low cost. Something very simple as, let's say, a conveyor. Even a conveyor is not really made in India. So I would say there can be a separate policy for those who are manufacturing equipment that will play a very vital role, because for most manufacturers, for any industry, it be IoT, it be mobile phones, it be EMS, it be PCB manufacturing, our machinery is very, very important to us in terms of uptime, in terms of maintenance of the same. And so if we can have that ecosystem also be in India somehow, that will help the entire Make in India initiative. So those were my comments. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Varun. I think you've asked for a number of asks, and I'm sure Mr. Marva and Atul must be noting this. Otherwise, we'll remind them after the seminar.
Thank you.
But I think all valid points, very valid points, and we need to figure out how we can take this forward. The next speaker we have is Mr. Sanjeev Agarwal. He's the Chief Manufacturing Officer of Lava. Sanjeev?
Yeah, good afternoon, all of you. I hope I am audible.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be part of this panel. And I would like to share my thinking about electronics manufacturing. So as Mr. Marva and Mr. Atul shared about the government policies, so I believe we have come up with good policies in past and which have helped us to start doing the product manufacturing in India. As in case of mobile phones, so I come from the mobile phone. So as we see in mobile phones, so more than 95% of the final products are being made in India now for domestic consumption. And with phase manufacturing plan which came up, so a lot of components also are being made in India. Components at high level, I should say. So what I see in future, so now, for example, government has come up with the PLI and all. So policies are there now. So now it is responsibility of industry to execute and use those policies in building up a strong ecosystem for electronics in India. And some thoughts which I have, like which are required and which will be very essential in doing that. One is like, see, till now, we in PMP and with other policies, we put up a barrier for imports. That if you import a mobile phone, completely build mobile phone, then there was a custom duty on that. Similarly, in PMP, we put that on components. As our domestic demand is being met by local manufacturing. But now what we have to do is we have to do exports. If we have to reach or achieve the targets which are set in these policies, then we have to focus on exports. And if we go out from India, then we have full world as a competition. Even our suppliers in China or in any other country, they are our competition. And there we don't have any benefit. So how we can gain share there is by our competitiveness, by our quality, by our cost, by our services. So those only will help us in further going up in the export market, in the world market. So one big opportunity which we have is that is component manufacturing. So as even whatever components we have localized till now, for example, battery, for example, charger, earphones, to some extent displays, but still the main components of those components, the sub parts of those components we are importing. For example, cell of battery, we are still importing. For example, LCD or glass or even FPCs for display, we are still importing. So if we import that, and after importing, if we will try to compete global market, will face tough challenges. So for doing that, now next step for us is to go deep into the supply chain, to have control on components like battery cells, like displays, like maybe as we were talking about semiconductors, but I see, yeah, definitely semiconductor is a requirement. But before that, we have to do these components. So which are like where we can have lot of local value addition and which will help us in competing in the global market. So now we don't have choice. So our funnel is full. We are doing 95% of domestic demand production in India. And so now our production will only increase with the growth in the market. So to come up with a big impact, it is exports. And for exports, there has to be big focus on foreign manufacturing. This will definitely help us in evolving our ecosystem further in India for electronics manufacturing. And definitely, if we do for mobile phone components, then it will help the overall electronic industry. Second point, which Sanjay also emphasized, so I want to put re-emphasis on that point, that is design in India. So for competing with the global market, for having control on ecosystem, on supply chain, design is must. So without doing design in India, we can't bring this whole ecosystem in India. So definitely design will bring IPs, plus design will bring differentiators in our product, which will make, because we have some challenges. For example, we were listening just before me that we have financial cost issue. So we are one of the most expensive country in terms of interest rates globally. So that is one disadvantage. But how we can overcome this disadvantages? By having better productivity, by having better differentiated products of better quality compared to our competitors. So then definitely customers will like that. And the only way of doing that is doing our own design. So, and design, what I mean is by product design. Definitely semiconductor design and other designs are happening in India, but still we lag on product design. So we have to start full product design from India. So we in our company, we have started it, I should say, in a small way 2 years back, and now we are ramping it up. But there is a long way to go to compete globally. So we have to focus on design. We have to bring up differentiators in the products. We have to see quality is hygiene. So we can't survive either in India or abroad without excellent quality. So quality is hygiene. So after quality, what comes is how much competitive you are, how much different you are. So these two things I see, if we focus on these, and I think definitely the policies which have come from government, they are enabling these activities. Now it is up to the industry to tie our laces and run and achieve all these goals. So that was all from my side. Thank you.
What we are looking at is the lead that the mobile sector is going to be taking in terms of developing the component ecosystem, because this is one sector that has received the incentives and the necessary push. So you people are a little ahead of the other sectors. So we must make sure that at least the component development starts from the mobile sector. So this is one message, at least from my side, that we really would like a lot of the components investment to be driven by some of the mobile companies who are present in this sector. So that will be a big help. I couldn't agree with you that we need local design and local IP to really progress as we go along. Thank you. Thank you for your inputs. The last speaker from the industry we have is Hemant. Hemant is from the industry he's the co-founder and executive vice president from Sankhya Labs Private Limited. And they are again involved in the semiconductors and also in the broadband equipment. Look forward to hearing from you. Hemant?
Yeah, hi Sanjeev. Thanks for this opportunity. So in terms of the topic, what we're talking about, making Atmanirbhar Bharat in the electronic sector, right, and overcoming COVID-19. So my thoughts on this, I would broadly classify under in terms of where we are, what we need, and how we can make use of this current situation to propel India forward. So we have two impacts from this. One is on the economic front, right? Because basically the pandemic has created a big economic impact, and of course, just like every crisis brings up opportunities with it. It is clearly an opportunity that is presented to India as well. Now it depends on how well we capture it, because it's all nice to say that it's an opportunity, but finally time will tell whether we as a country really step up ourselves to capitalize on this. I think the financial impact has created a realization that the domestic industry does need a big push in order to recover from the economic impact. Also, there is, apart from the economic considerations, there is the security angle which has come up. The border situation with China has triggered an anti-China sentiment due to security concerns, and there is a realization that telecom equipment can become a weapon of mass attack, if not destruction, if equipment from hostile countries is used as a backbone for the country's communication system. So these are both good headwinds. I think they need to be capitalized. I think in terms of electronic sector, how it is coping with this, clearly on the business side, it is not, although initially the impact has been sort of negative because of disruption in certain operations. But if you look at some of the new business promotion, getting new orders, I think as some of my peers also mentioned, we see a certain resurgence there, probably because customers are moving away from China production, etc. But we definitely see positive signs, and there is the connectivity had always matured so that we could do conference calls. But one thing we are seeing now is that over conference calls, actually companies and purchasers are willing to conclude business, not just evaluate or have initial discussion. So that's a new paradigm change that has happened and is a positive. I think in terms of R&D and product development, I think we don't see much impact. It's brought a new paradigm in terms of the way people work, especially in places where embedded software or design, chip design or hardware design are concerned. People are able to work as effectively from working from home if they have a good internet connection. That's all they need. But where we have a major impact clearly in the electronics industry is the manufacturing side, and the supply chains have sputtered and choked. A lot of delays in assembly, factory operations, component sourcing, customs clearance, all of these are affecting. So when manufacturing gets affected, customer order fulfillment also, there are delays which have to be explained. But then there's a certain amount of temporary tolerance of this from the customers. The other aspect is like if you look at vocal for local, especially on the ESDM sector, if we see an appeal like this from the government is a very powerful trigger for local companies. I think it's a great motivator. But again, this talk has to be backed up with walk, right? On the policy front, it has to be done in a mission mode, because it is very easy for an opportunity to be wasted if we don't act on it. And let's be honest in admitting that China didn't just the success didn't fall into their lap. They worked really hard for it, and they worked very aggressively as a country. And unless we display the same amount of action rather than talk, only then we can capitalize on this. So there is a certain time window in which we need to act, and we need to make sure that this brings in an upward push for our industry. So in our markets, what we see is that there's telecom. Like I'm talking about from my company's point of view, we are operating in the telecom sector, where we see a big opportunity lying ahead in terms of 5G, and our focus tends to be on the infrastructure market. So basically, as a semiconductor company, there are opportunities. It's a lot. We see bigger opportunities on the infrastructure side. Also, in terms of Satcom IoT, we have seen a good resurgence or a interest in a lot of applications for tracking assets like railway locomotives and fishing boats which go out into the sea waters. We also see, because of the enhanced focus on defense, we see a certain urgency in indigenization. That seems like a good opportunity for us. And we hope that materializes into orders. The sentiments have been very good, but businesses will survive only based on revenues. So we hope to see some action. We have been a bit we have been trying for a long time on rural broadband, pushing for this technology, which is an entirely indigenous product that we have built. But there are a lot of policy hurdles which are stopping us there. And then we have basically due to the pandemic effect, we have tried to consolidate and focus on things where there's more promise and less hurdles. Clearly, in terms of opportunities as end consumer applications, tele-education and telehealth are definitely something which we have realized that they were always possible. It's just we needed as a sort of society or as a species, I would say, the necessity to use those means, right? So we knew that this was possible, but now we have started using it. So these are good opportunities which are opening up. So for the first time, we are seeing, that not only there is a public support, right, but also a government and industry motivation is there, which I see is a big opportunity for the ESDM sector. Now, what could be the most effective post-COVID strategy for our sector? I think collaboration and cooperation between local companies is very important. I think very often we look at government, as an enabler, but there are big companies in India, whether it's telecom operators, a lot of the equipment manufacturers, and this, it is time for them to think local, right? And in terms of sourcing, developing the local ecosystem, whether it is semiconductors or product design, system product design. I think there is a good opportunity which was always there, but now maybe there's a change in thinking, and if we do it right, then we should be able to use this as a sort of turbo-charged engine for our economy. I think apart from, I think some of my panelists mentioned that we when we talk about domestic products, it is not that it's some sort of it's an opportunity which is lying next to us, but doesn't mean we limit it to that, because we have to compete globally. I mean, it's not that products are not going to come from outside. So all of our product development needs to be driven by innovation. it cannot be a Me Too product always, because that then you compete on price. So I think innovation is something which is inherently going to decide whether we succeed globally and even within the country. I think in terms of new opportunities for electronics manufacturing, I think nothing motivates India better than a crisis. I think we tend to be very tolerant of things until the water goes above your head, right? So, but I think this is a good thing that that can be used, right? I think now whether we limit ourselves to discussions and talks, or we get into action, I think that will decide what we get out of this. As an entrepreneur, I'm optimistic because that's how businesses can survive. So our execution as a country needs a conscious rethink. I think we need to be in mission mode to benefit from this. There is also a helpful wind, tailwinds, or something which propels us, is the sentiment in the society. Public also has now decided that we need to get local products, and that consciousness is going to help. In terms of intervention required to create future electronic sector growth in India, I think PSU purchases, PSUs collaborating and partnering with SMEs, where PSUs perhaps bring the market and the funding, and where SMEs are used as the technology experts, because we have a whole lot of talent pool thanks to 3-4 decades of MNCs working in India. So I think if this model is done, similar to big private companies, even PSUs can play a constructive role. And maybe there has to be some sort of targets for increasing domestic procurement by Indian PSUs every year as a percentage. So that would help. Lastly, being from a fabless semiconductor industry, I'm part of one of the accelerators which is operating in Bangalore. It's a Government of Karnataka and IESA, India Electronics and Semiconductor Association funded accelerator, which is focused on fabless chip companies. So this is basically an opportunity. It's a nascent industry. Maybe there are about 15 to 20 companies. But with the right sort of business opportunities, these companies could really set the trend for the coming decade. I think, so in terms of the trends, I think we already discussed that, manufacturing has to increase, but also we need to shift as an economy from services-based industry to a product-based economy. And I think that is where there's a big opportunity that is available for India. So I think with that, that's all I have to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Hemant. I think you made some excellent points of how we can really be growing the industry. I think vocal for local, and how we need to really help the local industry to actually benefit out of this. I think there is no doubt in my mind that there is a gap in terms of what is the ground reality. So in terms of each one of these activities, what we would request you is, whenever we talk here in the center, they say, okay, give us concrete examples of where it is not happening. We will make sure it is stopped. And this is at the minister's level. So if all friends from the industry, they can come up with specific cases of where the PMA is not working and what needs to be done, I think that will help the government also understand that what is really happening on the ground level. I also see that the fabless semiconductor, you said you are associated with an accelerator. This, I think, is going to be a key changer in the times to come. And I don't know what is the kind of traction, but what we need to do is really work with the innovation centers, with the innovation centers and the startups, how we can integrate those. And this is one question that I think we all need to together. How can we harness the eco system of the startups with the industry here to see how we can take this forward, because that will be very key in my opinion. So maybe there's some policy on this that between Invest India, MIT and the industry, we can come up, because I think we need to harness this strength. This strength is phenomenal, but I think it's very fragmented. Marwa Saab, another thought that came up in one of the seminars that I was, they said that most of these MNCs have large number of IPs, and they're probably actually using only 10%, and 90% are just product. And the one thought that came up is, can we have a platform where we have these IPs placed and various startups as well as the industry can be looking at these IPs as an exchange, and they can trade in that. So this is an idea which came in one of the sessions. So I thought it was a good idea, and if we can do something in this area, then maybe this will be one way we can help the local startups and the startup ecosystem, because they will be able to benefit out of it, and we in the industry will also be able to benefit out of it to be creating products with local IPs. So this is one thought I wanted to leave with you and see how we can work on this. We will come back with more details. We're working on more details, but it'll take us a few weeks before we'll come back to you officially. With this, I think we have finished the formal part of it. If there are any comments that Mr. Marwa or Atul or any of the panelists want to make before we look at some questions that are coming at the screen from the participants. Any last minute comments that any of the other panelists would like to make?
I would like to comment regarding the public procurement order. I mean, that is a very good instrument in the current time to promote our local domestic industry, because government is a huge buyer of electronics, particularly, of course, other products also.
Hello, we can't hear you.
Muted, please. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear
Can
you.
you hear me?
It disappeared. Yeah, it's better. I think there's some loose connection.
Okay. Is it okay now?
Yeah, now it's okay.
Okay. What I was saying that in the public procurement order, it's in the recent change. Class 2 suppliers only, there will be no foreign bidders for those. And for class 1, if you want to qualify, you need to achieve value 3%. For class 2 local suppliers is 3% and above. So what we have done for the electronic sector, we are revising our electronic product notification, and we will be notifying electronic products. And the way we have, actually it is not possible on BOM basis to achieve 50% value addition in electronic. Both and Varun Manwani said for desktops, for laptops, we have mandated that the motherboard should be domestically manufactured, be it from imported components, no problem, but it has to be domestically manufactured. Public procurement.
Great.
Industry can rest assured we are doing support the industry. Yes.
Marwa Saab, one other issue which keeps coming up is the ITA 1 products.
Yes.
Strategy, how we are going to push that sector. So that is something that we need to push, because ultimately that's a major element of the whole pack. almost 40% comes in from the datacom sector.
Correct.
We will meet with you on this to see what needs to be done.
Right. So actually, since we can't impose duty on ITA1 products, ways to incentivize, so we can work with the industry to see like how to incentivize these ITA1 products. But as far as components are concerned, we have covered both in the specs and PLI.
Correct. Absolutely. I think the components have been covered. The only problem has been some threshold issues, which we will keep coming back
Yeah,
to.
let's.
Yeah, on the PLI. But let's hope that those also will get as we go along. So I must say, very proactive. Our department has been extremely proactive. And Atul, I think both of you need to be complimented for the kind of support you're giving to the industry. And we hope we'll all come out of it.
I have a quick
I would also like to make a
comment on.
Please.
Sorry. Please go ahead.
So I was just extended to Sanjeev what you said that in last couple of years, we have been as a you can say socially responsible organization for the country. Although we are a European company, but again with the India hat, we have been trying to focus on the two problem areas that I mentioned. One was how we can connect these millions of engineering youth by giving them the right skills and do our own bit as part of our IESA platform as well as NXP, to train them. And the second was how we can connect to some of the startup ecosystem. And that's where we started connecting with the Invest India, DST, Mighty. And I must tell you the kind of pleasant experience I have in last 1 year where you always believe that, the government systems move slowly, but the kind of response we got from Invest India with the team from Mr. Bist, the kind of response we got from DST and Mighty, it was very, very encouraging that, while we are trying to do our bit, there's a stronger response coming from the other side. So I want to compliment them, and that as a part of industry representative, we will keep doing our job to leverage all these initiatives well. And my second comment is on, again, going back to the IP and innovation. As the innovation and the advancements in the technologies are driving newer and complex products, the percentage of semiconductors is actually increases very gradually. From probably a decade back, it was 10 to 15% of the overall electronic component part, and now it is ranging beyond 30%. So if we think strategically for long term, I'm again pitching in that in a decade's time, this will cross 50% value of the whole electronic product, because more and more integration of complex ideas, multiple chips is happening, and at certain point in time, it will be a very simple, kind of assembly build process, but the real value will be inside IPs and inside these semiconductor chips. And that's why it is important for us to think not just chip design, but chip designing, chip testing, IC fabrication, and then entire product engineering and test engineering units. The whole ecosystem to be part of, Indian clusters, so that, an entrepreneur or even an established company don't need to run away for every small component to China or to other country, because that will defeat the whole chain. And the strength of the chain is the weakest link. So I will just conclude with these two comments finally.
Very good. I think, Sanjay, that this is very heartening to hear that you're. Hello.
Yeah, Sanjeev, I have a comment to make, please.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, from the Atmanirbhar perspective, which I have also spoke about, what we need to do from an industry perspective is, answer yourselves, your own company is a very big exporter of electronics, and we are also in exports. So by example, we can say that a lot of international companies, they spend a lot of money, they spend time in terms of weeks, months, years in working with us to develop their product, which either it's a new development, or they are probably shifting base from one manufacturer to the other, or from one country to the other. And therefore we should learn from that. And instead of a lot of Indian companies and even the larger players oh, the Indian ecosystem doesn't exist. It is responsibility of all of us to ensure that we develop that ecosystem. If we constantly run to China, Malaysia, Thailand for small items, and we don't want to invest in the R&D or the development activity of that, we will never become Atmanirbhar. So we have to get away from this trader mindset and get more into a manufacturing mold. And I'm sure then the entrepreneurs will be able to respond. We have to give time, put effort and energy into developing that ecosystem here. It will not happen by itself. That's all.
I agree with you, Varun. But changing mindset is one of the biggest challenges. Not an easy task. But yes, we have to start somewhere.
Sir, change is the only constant, so we have to get that done.
Aarti, before we close, there are questions that you would like to pose to any of the panelists that you may have received.
Yes, sir. So we have got almost 50 plus questions. We cannot take all of them, so we'll take few selective ones.
Yeah, just take a few of them because we are already, the time is over.
Yeah, question for Mr. Marwa. Why have the number of Indian companies eligible for PLI restricted only to 5? Does it not restrict creating Atmanirbhar Bharat?
Okay. Had I a choice left to me, I would have opened it to as many. But the problem is the funds. The funds available with the government are limited, and we were allocated around 40,000 crore for this particular scheme. And as you would see that never in the history of independent India, a sector has got this kind of an amount, and it is the first time that government has responded very positively and seeing the importance of this sector. The overall, the three schemes, the budget that has been allocated is 50,000 crore, and that is no mean task, It's then within that budget also, we can't support all the sectors, all the initiatives. I would have liked, like Mr. Sanjeev Narayan said, that supported the IT products also. Okay, but we could not do that because of the limited availability of the budget. But going ahead, seeing the success, I hope the schemes become a success. And when the government sees the outcomes, maybe we get more fund allocation, and then we can work further on that.
Marwa Sahab, I'm sure with your push and the success that we are getting on the mobile, you will be able to get more funds allocated, because we are looking at all the other sectors, whether it's air conditioners, whether there's the white goods, television,
Right.
Each one of them, PLI will be one of the driving forces.
Yeah.
So we wish you all the best. We understand the limitations. Aarti, the next question.
So next is important question. I think it's skill development in electronics is important. So if anyone can, say something on that. What is happening on the skill development for electronics sector?
Okay.
So, do you want me to take it?
Atul, yeah, go ahead. Or Sanjay, go ahead.
I will just say that again, I have seen a lot of positive traction from government departments, especially with the drive of Skill India. I met multiple people who are interested in how we can actually engage with universities, in actually driving right from the root level, how we advancement in the curriculum, how we get them advancement in the industry-centric curriculum projects and coursework, so that when they are out of their final year colleges, they're right there as a skilled workforce. And I know that a lot of work is happening from IESA platform, as well as our individual capacity in engaging with the multiple universities in the country. We are also in the process of setup of labs so that engineers can get state-of-the-art boards and software systems where they can have their final year projects or third year projects working on real industry problems and cross-functional, multidisciplinary kind of a solution. But I would say it is far from ideal. We are just started. I think we are on a scale of 1 to 10, probably somewhere in 5. So long way to go. But the start has happened from government, and I think we just need more and more alignment and programs like this to bring people together in heart and mind.
I think the very fact, that once you got started, we will get there. And everyone is focused on this. And the Prime Minister, in fact, yesterday was the fifth skilling day, annual day that he celebrated, Skill India. So a lot is being done. The question is that, a lot still needs to be done also. So let's all keep at it, but I'm sure things will happen. Aarti will take another 2 questions.
Yes, let's take 2 questions. So the another one is, what is planned for semiconductor chip manufacturing in India?
That is Mr. Marva's question.
Okay. We have been working hard at it for the last 10 years. And in fact, there is an empowered committee already working in the government to attract, investors and provide package of incentives. We had floated a global expression of interest. There were 2 business proposals which the government got. We got them appraised and issued the letter of intent with a very attractive set of financial incentives. But one of the consortia got into financial trouble, they backed out, and the other one could not achieve financial closure in spite of being provided extension of time on several occasions. So the key issue, the key learning was that the assured demand out of the market, the available market in India for that particular fab, which comes as an India fab, maybe 1 or 2 fabs or 3 fabs, and has to be an assured demand for their chips. The problem with fab is once it starts, you can't stop it. So the output has to be tied up. So you need to have confirmed orders. So that is the biggest bottleneck. So that is what has kept the other, the second proposal, it could not fructify because primarily they could not, tie up their output. So that's very important as far as setting up a fab is concerned. But anyway, now going ahead, we are looking at, 2-3 proposals are under consideration of the government. So one is compound semiconductors. That is a niche area. For example, the gallium nitride, silicon carbide. So that space is a niche area, and our Indian Institute of Science, they have developed the GaN technology, and we are supporting setting up of a GaN incubator that the government is considering supporting at Indian Institute of Science. And then there is also, we are looking at, we have one facility, Semiconductor Limited Semiconductor Laboratory, which was SCL. Earlier it was a PSU under the Electronics Ministry, but now it is with the Department of Space. So that facility is meeting the strategic requirements of the country. So we are looking at, augmenting the facility there and making available for, commercial fabrication purposes also. That is other thing. The third thing the committee is looking at is setting up a semiconductor R&D center, So as a lot of talk has happened, we need to have our own IPs, R&D, that is very important. And besides that, the focus on fabless industry. The national policy on electronics, the new one, it focuses on that. So we will promote that in a big way. Creation of Indian IP and creation of, so that is extremely important. And then electronics manufacturing ecosystem, So we are steadily moving from the semi-knockdown to completely knockdown level. The market is increasing, and that will act as an incentive for a future fab to come in. And also as a low-hanging fruit, what we have done in the PLI as well as the spec scheme, we have included the assembly, test, marking and packaging units, ATMP units. We have included in both the schemes. The PLI scheme for the production linked incentive of 4 to 6%, CapEx subsidy of 25%, scheme. So we believe that once a number of ATMP units come in, so that will, ultimately then along with the manufacturing ecosystem, along with the fabless chip design ecosystem, that will act as a magnet to get a fab in. So that's the thought of the government.
Thank you, Saab. I would just add to that, the government has been working on the phase manufacturing program, where ultimately the PCBA imports has to stop. And once the PCBA assembly is going to take place here in India, the demand for components will be visible to the global players. So far, what's happening is there's no demand visibility for the local, for the global component players. They don't see the demand in India. So I think that step has been taken by the ministry, and that should go a long way in creating demand for local components and then bringing in investment in the component sector. This is how I look at it.
For example, the mobile sector, we have imposed basic customs duty of 20% on assembled PCBs, on import of assembled PCBs. So all the assembly activity for mobile is happening indigenously today. And that is also happening for other sectors which are non-ITA. The only issue is for the ITA products, So
ITA
there we need
products on one side and FTA on the other.
Correct,
the FTA is another culprit, which is the ones which are not covered under ITA.
They get covered under FTA.
They get FTA. So these are the two things which are holding back the localization of the manufacturing industry. And we must all be very conscious about it and make it happen so that this takes off. Okay.
Yes, so we will
Sorry.
be engaging with the industry on identifying measures what we can take, to check imports of populated PCBs.
We'll be happy to do that, and hopefully in a month's time we'll come to you with all the other products that we talked about, which is the air conditioners, set-top boxes. We're talking about the lighting products and things like this, where we need some similar policy support.
Okay.
Aarti, the last question.
Yes, so I think it is for Mr. Sanjeev Agarwal, and it says, Make in India has benefited so far the Chinese in mobile world. How do you see Atmanirbhar Bharat will impact Indian manufacturers and employment prospect for Indians?
See, what I see this is Make in India has helped everyone. Make in India was there for any manufacturer from any country who has come to India and manufactured. It has benefited to Indian companies also, and it has benefited to the foreign companies also. It was up to the companies how they took initiative and how they took benefit of that scheme. So, that is the fact. So I don't think that Chinese have got more advantage or Indians have not got advantage. So as I shared my view, so the Indian companies, so we have to create some champions, global champions from India in the electronic sector. So definitely Make in India or these schemes like PLI will be enabler. But for becoming those champions, those companies, those organizations have to strive hard. They have to put their everything in achieving those goals. And definitely by doing that, they can take advantage of these schemes also, and finally they can reach the ultimate goal.
Thank you. Whoever the person who had asked this question, that also you must see that even if the foreign companies are taking benefit of this, whether they are Taiwanese or whether they are Chinese or European, ultimately employment is coming to the Indians. And both in terms of the blue collar as well as the technical people. So Indian people are benefiting. And similarly, the large companies are also going to create ancillaries. And so the MSMEs will also benefit out of it in the long run. It may be too early now. And then companies like Lava and Micromax and others who have been covered in this PLI scheme, which is excellent. So I'm sure each one of you will also be creating global champions in the mobile sector. So good luck to all of you. So with that, can we close the session now, Aarti?
Yes, sir. There are many questions, but I think we have limited time. It's Hemant, do you have any last comments to add?
Well, actually, the part about skill development, I think, was interesting. Actually, while it might surprise some of us, we have very good high-tech skills. I think where we are missing is the the ITIs and the diploma holders who can actually be trained, and that is a very scalable industry. So as an economic impact, actually that is a big opportunity where I think China recognized that, and they didn't focus on the high tech. We have all the software development, all the chip design things happening in India, but there's a huge pool of people who could be trained if electronics manufacturing takes off in a big way. I think that skill is our industry is sort of a 5-star industry in many ways, right? All the conferences happen in 5 stars, all of this, but there's a whole lot of ground level things which we are missing. Yeah. So I think that's where we have a big opportunity for skill development.
Thank you, Hemant.
So with this, sir, we close the session.
Yeah, I think we will close this session, and I'd like to thank all my fellow panelists for the excellent participation in the conference. Hope that discussions will be work on it to make things happen, whether it is in terms of manufacturing, whether it is in terms of skill development, or integrating the ecosystem of startups. I think these are the 3 major takeaways as I see it from this thing, but we can all make it happen. And fortunately we have both Atul and Mr. Marva here who will support us as they have done in the past. Thank you very much for this deliberation, and I appreciate this very much.
Thank you, Sanjeev sir. The session was very well. Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you, Atul. Thank you, thank you, Mr. Sanjeev. Thank you, Varun.
Thank you.
Mr. Marva.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day ahead.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.